This meeting on Wednesday, August 21st, Board of Education. At 6:03 p.m. Stand for pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance.
United States of America, United States, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You got it. All right, roll call.
Mr. Berger.
Here.
Ms. Conway is excused. Mr. Corey is on his way. Mr. Cronin.
Here.
Mr. Predis is excused. Mr. Ucolito.
Here.
Ms. Hona here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Knight. Here. Putnam is
Here.
Mr. Putnam is here.
Here.
Mayor Representative. Ms. Ferguson here. Ms. Clemens here. Mr. Pagola.
Here.
Ms. Petrozelli.
Here.
Ms. Schulte.
Here.
Ms. Beans. Here. Mr. Wilson is excused. Let the record show that Mr. Corey came in at 6:04 p.m. Okay.
Relinquish control back to you, sir.
Do you need the agenda?
Yeah. I don't have any.
Does anyone have a copy of the agenda?
Okay. Apologies for being a couple minutes late. I know, before I call for a vote for the approval of the agenda, that there were some changes that I want you to know. Okay,
There was, Susan talked to me about a couple of them, she was like,
did we nix that proposal for now? Okay. Okay, so in that case, I will hear a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Are we going to talk about changing the agenda? Because I think I know what the motion should be, what the change should be, if that's what you're looking for.
Certainly, if you'd like to move it with an
I
amendment.
would like to add an item which would decide on the naming of the new building by this group.
Okay, I thought, didn't we resolve?
No, that was the,
No.
no.
I thought we voted that it would be, we vote on intermediate, I recall a vote.
no, he's
No,
talking
no.
about
The new building.
the new campus,
The signs that are
Oh,
going
oh,
on.
I
that's
see.
exactly what I was gonna say, John, that has to be
Okay,
decided.
so we will add that,
That's an action item.
yeah, we put it under new information and action, I suppose, so it'll be, H7. So would that be your motion then, be to approve the agenda with that amendment?
Page 7, yes, that would be my motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, further amendments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
So it's John and Bill.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Alright, our agenda. School, community service, and public participation, is there anything else that address the board? Anyone online? Okay, then we'll skip the long paragraph. And we will go right ahead for information and action. So I have, item A, Brown and Brown Insurance Presentation. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Chuck Petruccione. I'm with Brown and Brown Insurance. We are the health insurance brokers for Torrington Public Schools. And I have with me tonight Sheila Stoddard and Jay Fiorello from my office as well. We are a full-service brokerage company that focuses our little wing of Brown and Brown. All that my team does day in and day out is health insurance for towns and schools. So Torrington brought us in this summer and said, hey, we need some help with this health insurance that we're looking to put in place standalone for the Board of Ed as of October 1st. So that's what we were tasked to do. So we hit the ground running and have spent the last 6 to 7 weeks scouring the market and putting together the best possible proposals for medical, dental, vision. So what I have today, for those, everybody should have it in front of them, they're being handed out now, is a copy of a presentation. It shouldn't be too hard. I'm gonna walk through it. I think hopefully be pretty easy to understand. The first couple slides, I'm not going to spend too much time on. This is just a little bit of background on us because I want you guys to feel comfortable since we are new in the picture and most of you guys don't recognize us, haven't worked with us before. So this first slide just talks about how big Brown & Brown is internationally, tons of offices. You don't need to hear about that. What I'm more interested in is the next slide, slide 3. This is, so you guys can see that we have a ton of experience in this space. These are all the towns and schools that we represent as brokers here in Connecticut. So we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man-hours spent servicing specifically towns and school districts here in Connecticut. So we wanted everybody to understand that when we talk, we have a lot of experience. We've been there before. Whatever questions arise, we've almost certainly heard them before, and we'll be prepared to answer. Last slide on this topic is slide 4. This is our team. So I am in charge of everybody that you see on this paper. And again, everyone you see here, 3 of us are here tonight. All we do is health insurance for towns and schools. So we know this space really well, and we're very educated to speak on it. Slide 5. So we wanted to lay out what the process has looked like for us since we took over as brokers and everything we've gone through and what's kind of led to us being here tonight to present. July 1st, we were named broker of record for Torrington Public Schools. And again, we were tasked with finding the best possible coverage for the schools for an October 1st effective date. We put out everything to bid: medical, dental, vision, life, and disability. In some cases, we said, hey, maybe what's in place now is great and doesn't need to be changed. But in other places, there's room for improvement, and we've got to make sure that Torrington's getting the best deal possible. Takes about 2 weeks when you take over a new group as the broker to get all the data in-house from the various carriers. So on July 10th, we had the information we needed, released the request for proposals. For something this large scale, for an employer that has hundreds and hundreds of employees, usually takes 3 to 4 weeks for carriers to turn it around. But with a 10/1 date looming for us, we really pressed the carriers and we had responses back within about 2.5 weeks. We presented our initial findings to the staff at the public schools on August 6th. We then go back to the carrier with some feedback, look at some information, make sure that what they're promising can be delivered. 2 days ago, we presented the final numbers, and here we are tonight presenting to you guys the full board. Whatever you ultimately decide to do tonight, however you vote, we will let all of the carriers know this information tomorrow. If any choices are made to make decisions to change carriers, that work will begin as soon as possible. We are only about 5.5 weeks away from a go-live date. We have tentative dates scheduled in case action is needed, that we can start educating the staff in the first week of September on how everything would go down. There's no need for anybody to fill any new forms out. In this day and age, everything's electronic. Census data would go to the new carrier that week. If there's a change, employees would have new ID cards in hand a couple weeks later, and everything happens effective for October 1st. Slide 6 talks about the goals that we were looking to achieve from this RFP. For medical, we wanted to look at both fully insured and self-funded options, do our due diligence and see what the best fit was for Torrington for where you're at today. Dental and vision, those are both smaller line items in the grand scheme of things. Risk on dental and vision does not fluctuate very much, so self-insuring those is definitely the most cost-effective option moving forward. From a time period standpoint, we looked at it 2 ways. One way would be start with a 9-month proposal that takes us from 10/1 through the start of your next fiscal year on next 7/1. But the other way to look at it was, what if we could get a medical rate that covered 21 months? We don't even have to worry about an increase to the medical rate come July 1st. So that was ultimately the ask and what seemed to be in Torrington's best interest. Considerations from a medical standpoint, Your contract language with your various union agreements reads substantially similar. We always, in our dealings when we're looking at potential changes to carriers, we always try to hold ourselves to a standard of equal to or better. Because if I'm an employee today and I have a certain benefit, if it's very close, that would meet the substantially similar language, but that's not what we're here for. We want to deliver a plan that is identical in scope and design to what you have today. From a benefit standpoint, everything would stay the same. Whatever co-pays people have today, whatever co-insurance, deductibles, this is not a new carrier coming in and saying, hey, we can save you a bunch of money by cutting the benefits. I mean, anybody can do that. Our job is to try to save money, get you the best plan possible within your budget while retaining the exact current level of benefits you have today. In dental, the reality is the dental plan that's been in place here is an old platform under Anthem that has not been enhanced in decades. And furthermore, that platform from Anthem doesn't even recruit new dentists to it anymore because it's so old. So one of the things we wanted to achieve from this was a more modern look at dental. And then vision, improve where we could, help some folks out, but at the very worst, meet the current standards of everything. And then from a package stand, if we can consolidate it all with one carrier, that helps people, makes things simpler, and again, gets us a stronger overall package. Because if you put everything, a carrier is going to be happier, give you a little bit more of a break. Slide 7, some high-level notes on the medical and prescription coverage. So the plan as we have today that had the strongest overall offer came from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. They are far and away the largest player in the health insurance market for public sector here in Connecticut. Today you're with Cigna, who is far and away the second biggest public sector carrier in Connecticut. There are a handful of groups around the state that don't have Anthem or Cigna, but between the two of them, they make up about 98% of the market. But again, Anthem is the big gorilla in the room. One thing that's very key, and I know that as folks have discussed this potential change, we want to put out there and so everyone understands. You have hundreds of employees today who work for Torrington who are in high deductible health plans. So they have a deductible they need to meet before the insurance carrier starts kicking in coverage. What will occur if you were to change carriers on 10/1, because your plan year actually runs July through June, any dollars people meet from July 1st through September 30th under Cigna, they get credit for those with Anthem. So people don't have to start over with a brand new deductible. We will work to get reports from Cigna to make sure that we get one set of reports in early, mid-September, another set right after the change, and then maybe another set of reports a month later to get the fullest picture possible to make sure we're gathering that data. My team at Brown & Brown, Sheila in particular, who is local here, are very hands-on. We give our phone number to individual members and say, if you have an issue, call us and we will get it sorted out for you. Inevitably, in a carrier change situation, there are some bumps in the road. It is our job to smooth those bumps over. So if a member goes to the pharmacy on October 1st on a new plan, and they say, hey, I had met my deductible under Cigna, but that number hasn't come over, let us know. We get it taken care of right away. From a prescription standpoint, the program Anthem's offering is their largest prescription drug formulary, called their national formulary. Anthem has different prescription formularies they can roll out to places, some that are more restrictive and save some more money. But in order to mirror what Cigna has today, Anthem is proposing their largest formulary. And there's no change to HSAs or anything like that, because that has nothing to do with the insurance piece. That's a separate piece, just wanted to point that out. From a provider standpoint, so one thing that's never 100% identical from one carrier to another is the list of doctors who are in network. We've started this analysis, and you can see in the chart at the bottom of this page, this is a very high-level summary from Anthem. But what we're seeing is, over the last 12 months, Torrington's members have seen 9,432 doctors. Of those, 98.5% would be in network with Anthem. Now, there's deeper dives we're gonna do. We're gonna look into specialists. We're gonna make sure that that match is strong across all the various specialty types. But from a high-level standpoint, this is an incredibly high match. Members should not really experience much, if any, disruption in which doctors are in network versus out of network. It's Anthem's national PPO network, if anybody asks. It's their largest national network. Again, carriers can have restricted networks and regional networks. This is the largest national network. Members retire, move to Florida, Arizona, California, whatever. Anthem's in network all over the place. And like I said, we're going to continue the deeper dive over the next couple weeks as we look into the specialty areas. From a long-term standpoint, like I said, these rates that Anthem proposed on a fully insured basis are guaranteed for 21 months. So they will not increase until 7/1/26. Should be very helpful for budgeting. Mentioned already, Anthem's the largest public sector carrier. And at Brown & Brown, we've worked really hard because we represent so many towns and boards across the state. And we've helped build several block purchasing arrangements around the state, some fully insured, some self-funded. And in the future, that's always something that we could help Torrington work toward if you are interested in. We have a lot of other areas that we represent, Thomaston, Winchester, Region 7. We have a lot of groups up here in the northwest corner, and we have helped them work together to build purchasing blocks. So these are options we can pursue down the line in the future. Slide 8 is actually something that just officially came through today, so I wanted to make sure that I pass this along to everybody. This is called an equal to or better letter. This is the commitment that we always get in any carrier change that we propose from the incoming carrier, that they promise to match the exact benefit designs as they are in place today, in this case with Cigna. Now, that anybody can say that up front. What this really means, though, and where the teeth of this is, Anthem's going to do their best to build all the plan designs as they exist today, but the build of an insurance plan is very complicated. There's thousands of lines of data behind the scenes. What this letter is really saying, and what it means is, hey, if your employees come to us in October or November or December or February and say, hey, I had X amount of chiropractic visits before, but now you're restricting me. Or I used to be able to get 3 months supply at the retail pharmacy, and now I can only get 1. We go back to Anthem and we say, hey, you guys need to change the plan. You need to correct it so that it will cover those things. Again, we do this time and time and time again. Slide 9 talks about dental. So what Anthem has proposed here from a dental standpoint, I mentioned up front that the current arrangement you have with Anthem is on their older platform. So on this slide, the 2 columns that are highlighted in like pink or orange at the top, those are the plans you have today. What Anthem is willing to do moving forward is the plan you have in blue here. And what I did was on all these various benefit slides here, anything that is an improvement over what you have today is highlighted in red. So you can see that this option from Anthem improves the dental benefits pretty much across the board for both of the plans you have today. The only thing that's showing as worse today is that there's an annual maximum on this proposal from Anthem, whereas your current plan doesn't have one. But that annual maximum is $4,000. So one thing we wanted to make sure of was, hey, we're not in this to harm anybody. We want to make sure everybody's getting, at worst, the same coverage they have today, preferably better where possible. So we had Anthem run a report over the last year of all the dental services everybody used. De-identified, I don't have names, but I have dollar totals for each person. Of the 1,000, there's a note at the bottom, of the 1,711 members who had dental claims last year, only 14 of those 1,700 had over 2,000 in spend, and only one person was over 3,000, and that was 3,052. So a cap of 4,000 literally will not change anything anybody has today. Nobody came anywhere near that number over the past year, and meanwhile, all these other areas get enhanced. And then the last piece is on vision. So today, you have two different vision plans depending on which union and how their contract works. Some groups have exam-only vision coverage. Other groups get hardware and the exam. Hardware meaning lenses, frames, contact lenses. With Anthem, they can match all the same vision parameters that Cigna has today, and they can do so for everybody. So again, it's another area of opportunity if you were so inclined to enhance that benefit for the staff as a whole. That's the end of what I have prepared. Certainly happy to talk to you guys about any other nuances, any conversation you want to have around it. You know, like I said, we've done dozens and dozens of carrier changes across the state, union, up and down, teachers, custodians, secretaries. My team knows what they're doing. We will, like I said, handhold every single person to make sure that they get what they need, because the carrier change is a big deal. You know, we say, where we work with folks, the two things that we're dealing with when we look at insurance are people's health and people's money. And we don't take that lightly, and we deliver for each and every individual member as much as they need. So with that, I will end my presentation.
Thank you. Just before I turn it around for questions from other members of the board, you have a pretty aggressive timeline by necessity here, and I understand that. But it's likely that we may delay a vote just a short time to give some folks time to process. I know the board's other co-chair isn't with us this evening, and I would personally, I'd like to hold off by a couple days in case the representatives of our collective bargaining units have some questions they'd like to pass along to the board so that we can make sure that we get them answered. So I hate to ask this, but what's the drop dead date where you need a decision before it becomes a problem?
I don't know that I have a firm number for you on that. Realistically, I wouldn't want to go past the end of August, certainly, right?
So if we were to hold a special meeting and vote next week if necessary, and it's possible the board, it has a totally different direction.
Yeah, understood,
Tonight,
understood.
if we were to do a special meeting next week to cast a vote on this and finalize it, you could get it done.
I'm pretty confident in saying yes to that, because a lot of the work's been done, right? We've spoken, again, with Anthem in this scenario. We've spoken with them. In the grand scheme of public sector plan designs, you guys don't have that many plans. I have groups that have 15 different plan designs, right? So you have 4. So it's not a crazy lift. Anthem already has Torrington in-house for dental, so they don't have to build a new case from ground up. They've got a lot of your contact info and stuff already. The sooner the better, certainly, because like you said, it is a truncated timeline, but we'll do what we have to do. And if you can't know till next Wednesday or Thursday for sure, we'll make it happen. Yeah, I mean, like so Sheila just said, you know, some of these dates may change, obviously, you know, census may get pushed back a week, ID cards may be a week later, but it's 2024, even if people didn't have ID cards in hand before 10/1, they're live on 10/1, they can use the app, they have digital access to their ID card, right, so.
Great. And then I know you put it together, but I don't see it here. So when you were talking through this Anthem plan, I assume that's because of all the options you collected, that was the best cost
Correct.
or equal or better coverage of
Correct.
all the options you were.
That's exactly right, yep.
So were there any other plans that came close or that would merit consideration in your professional opinion, or is this really the clear and away winner?
This is pretty much the clear and away winner. we certainly, and we gave Cigna a last look at it because nobody ever wants to change carriers, right? Path of least resistance is staying with the carrier you have. We don't have to worry about things like that deductible carryover I spoke of. But at the end of the day, the offer Anthem put forward on a fully insured, no risk, this is the worst case you can possibly pay scenario, was significantly better than what anybody else had on the table.
That's all for me, no Governor Dunn.
Comment and the question, I agree that it would be precipitous of us to take a vote tonight. If we can delay the vote, we could have a Zoom meeting sometime next week. It would be brief probably, but it would give our bargaining units a chance to react, give us a chance. This is all new. The only thing we got ahead of this meeting was the sheet with a bunch of numbers, and those numbers were different tonight when we got a second sheet. So I think we need time to look at it. I agree with you. The other thing I have as a question is, among the considerations in equivalent or better is claim service. And this is a problem with almost any insurance company. Would you care to comment on a comparison among these insurance companies for claim service?
Yeah, we have lots of groups with both Anthem and Cigna. They both do a fine job. I'm sure if I went online and looked up, is Anthem bad? Is Cigna bad? I'm gonna find tons and tons of responses. I've had members over the year tell me, Anthem's the worst I've ever had. I've had just as many people tell me how awful Cigna is and how much they're so much happier with Anthem. Every member's individual experience is gonna be a little bit different. Both of these carriers are perfectly capable of servicing a union environment. Anthem legitimately has 85 to 90% of the public sector market in Connecticut. They wouldn't be able to do that if they couldn't provide the right customer service for your plan.
Thank you.
I will say, in another life, I worked in medical billing for the Visiting Nurses Association, and while trying to avoid any claims of defamation, these are not the worst folks that we ever had to deal with. I won't name the worst company, but it is not.
Neither will
I've had Anthem for 10 years now, that would never have come,
Any
other than
other,
expenses.
I wasn't sure if you were done, sorry.
No,
Okay.
Glen's gonna be the first.
Just one point of clarification, when you mentioned the dental and the maximum of 4,000, it does say per insured person.
That's correct.
So
Yeah,
a family
so
of
each,
two would have
the
8,000.
employee, would have 4, the spouse would have 4, each kid would have 4, yes.
Correct. And so the fine print on the bottom, in that case, in that bullet point there, is that like for an individual?
Those are individuals, because you only have about 650 contracts on your plan.
Yep.
So this is all the members, this is each person, spouse, kid, yeah.
So a spouse, 2 people is $8,000, and no one's ever even come close to that.
Correct.
So this is a huge, even though it's considered not unlimited, it's well above what
Correct.
can be expected. So I just
Yes.
want to make sure people
Yep.
understood that it's a $4,000 per insured. Yes.
And that's why I wanted to do that extra work and get that data. Because if I didn't know that data, I would just say, hey, wait a minute, we didn't have a max before, and now we do. But it's a max that no one has ever come near, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mike? So I know you're only 2.5% when it comes to providers or doctors that are in your network. Does that, you mentioned this equal to or better, that they go back for different services. Does that work with work with doctors also?
So providers are never a one-to-one identical match between carriers, right? So Anthem's gonna build the plan design identically to what Cigna had, but at the end of the day, we're talking about 9,000 doctors, and those doctors make their own personal decisions on which networks they join. So there will be a very small handful of providers who are in network today with Cigna, but who don't end up in network with Anthem. There are programs in place. Anthem will do what's called a transition of care. If anybody is seeing a doctor for a significant course of treatment, cancer treatment, stroke, pregnancy, something like that, if that provider they're seeing is in network with Cigna today, Anthem will honor that even if they're not in network with Anthem for a minimum of 90 days, probably more like 180, all right? but those are gonna be few and far between. And this is not to say, and by the way, not all of these doctors are in network with Cigna today. There's also many of your members who are seeing out-of-network doctors with Cigna as well. It's just something that's unavoidable. The match is high, very strong, but there's always gonna be a little tiny discrepancy between the two.
And I have another question too. So I was part of Anthem with the state of Connecticut. And there was, their plan, I don't know if it's a state plan or if it was Anthem's plan, where you had to make sure you're up on visits or else your rates kind of fluctuated.
Yep.
Or,
Yep.
you know, you got reprimanded or you had
Yeah.
to do something. Is that,
No, that's a state of Connecticut
Okay.
thing, not an Anthem.
got it?
Right. Yep.
So, Kim and Sue, in the meeting you discussed, it said you discussed with the appropriate parties, like, I think the unions maybe? Who did you discuss this plan with? Did you get good feedback, bad feedback?
We didn't discuss this plan. The discussion that we had, which was very, very casual, was that a request from the certified group to somehow enhance the vision and dental because it was not as good as the non-certified plan.
It's a good plan.
I mean,
heard you say
Sandy, I'm
something.
sorry, I'm gonna quote Sandy, she went to the dentist this morning and had to pay out of pocket for some ridiculous thing because our dental plan is terrible.
Our dental plan is horrible.
No, they said that. But the one thing I don't want the board to be responsible if this doesn't go off well. I'm happy with the plan, but that's just me, I don't know anybody else. I don't know if waiting 2 or 3 days is gonna cause an issue or not, I know nothing about insurance. It's the best plan by far, it seems. I don't know what we're gonna glean from talking for 2 or 3 days. It's far and above better than what they have now, in every respect. I just don't wanna risk us losing out, or it's their angst that I'm worried about. It's the people who have the insurance policies that I'm worried about. And this not going off the way it should. I don't know if anybody else is concerned about that, but that's a concern of mine.
We've been told by these gentlemen we shouldn't be concerned about that. We have a week, let's take it.
Well, we didn't say that.
Well, when we get to the time for somebody to, consider making a motion, I would certainly hear it and let the vote fall where it may, but in the meantime, are there additional questions from members of the board, administrative team? So I just wanna turn back toward the numbers again, and I think I know the answer to this, but I wanna make sure. So if we're gonna achieve significant savings, if we were to go with this Anthem plan, all of our employee bargaining units, they pay a percentage. So then everybody saves money, right? So our employees save money for at parity or better coverage.
Yeah, as you look down the line, employees pay on a rate, and if those rates,
That really is between, I think, the board and the membership at the end of the day, because you're currently working off of a rate that is based on self-funded and is somebody's version of what the costs are, as opposed to this is a very real fixed premium. And I would advise that that needs to be a conversation between the finance director, the superintendent, and the board.
So are there some estimates or even a fixed number for what that premium is?
My suggestion is that you hold the current rates, the current contribution as it stands today.
Because our collective bargaining units, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Kim, but I believe all of our collective bargaining units say that each employee pays a percentage of the total cost for their or their family's
Right.
So in year one, nothing is gonna change.
Okay,
We're holding
We are-
whatever
we can
anybody's
do that.
rates are the same.
and that wouldn't require a memorandum of understanding or a renegotiation. I don't want anybody to get hosed, but I also don't wanna get bogged down in collective bargaining bureaucracy. Okay.
But that doesn't preclude us, I don't think. I don't, it wasn't answered up there, like we can't discuss it here, but I don't think that precludes us from giving them a less expensive plan if the board decides to do that, because of the delta, which we're not gonna discuss tonight, but.
Right, and that's sort of where I'm
I
angling
know,
for,
and
is
I-
that if there are considerable savings, I know that we have some things we can afford to spend money on. I just would hope that maybe we can work that out somehow without a big rigmarole on behalf of our employees who, like everybody, pay more money every year for their healthcare.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all I've got. Last call. Anybody? Okay, so we have this as possible action. Again, my preference, and I know Mr. Kisko's would be to take no action at this moment, but to schedule a meeting within the next week to take it. But if there is a motion on action, I will hear it.
I'd like to make a motion, we vote tonight.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so there has been a second. Any discussion?
Only that if we have extra days, I think we owe it to ourselves because we just got this. To Mr. Knight, who hasn't had a chance to obviously get himself exposed to this, although I don't mind speaking for Mr. Knight. And I think if we have the time, it's not gonna hurt anything to schedule a Zoom meeting later on. So I would suggest voting no on this, and then we can have a motion to meet later.
Great, thank you. Before I call for additional discussion, I'm sorry, Gary, I should ask you to clarify that your motion is to adopt
Vote to adopt
the broker's recommended Anthem insurance plan.
yes.
Okay, and you're okay with that being your second? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that in the record. Any additional discussion? Okay, and I want to just make it clear that, again, a no vote on this does not mean we're gonna throw all your work in the
Right.
trash. It just
Right.
means we wanna wait a week or two, or not two, a week.
I'm requesting a roll call vote.
Okay, so hearing no additional discussion, Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll.
You got Kristen and Jeff on, don't forget.
Mr. Berger?
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Ms. Conway's not here. Mr.
No, she's
Corey?
on the call.
Ms. Conway, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm in South Carolina, but I'm here. Yes.
Mr. Corey?
No.
Mr. Cronin?
Yes.
Mr. Ucalito?
Yes.
Ms. Hona? No. Mr. Kisko?
No.
Mr. Knight?
No,
Mr. Putnam?
He is, he's got kicked off Zoom, he's on Vimeo, he's up in the air, so he's not voting now.
Well, if he's listening
It's fine.
and he's present, are we able to let him back into the Zoom, or is that by his own choice that he's left the meeting?
Well, we could text him with the message, he can apparently receive text
We can't
messages.
we can't take a vote by text.
Right, that's why I'm saying, that would be
okay,
the only way we
so-
can contact him.
So with that, you said the vote was 4-4?
Yes.
Okay, so I will break that tie in favor of the no votes, and we're gonna give it a week. But I suspect that it will be a unanimous vote if we can get rolling.
You can't
Wait a minute, we
tie
can-
those,
you voted
you
twice.
vote.
He voted
You voted
already,
twice.
but it can't, it doesn't pass.
It doesn't pass.
That's
because
fair,
it's a tie.
actually, you are correct, but it is a tie and it does not carry. I forgot we changed that, you gave me the right to vote on things.
who's gonna deal with that?
Yeah,
Well, I would suggest we do it by Monday if we can by Zoom, because I know you don't think it's gonna be a big deal, but
That'll be up to the chairs to schedule.
we can talk about it.
So how much time do you think is adequate for Mr. Knight and yourself and others to review this information?
The weekend would do it,
Yeah, the week,
for me, I would say the weekend would do it.
I would say the weekend as well.
okay, so,
Shoot for something early next week?
yeah,
And what was your 31st, you were like, at that, September 15th, is that appropriate?
Yeah, I'd really prefer to stay in the month that starts with an 8, you know?
yeah,
Okay, so that'll give us it next week, and then,
and we can tackle it. Okay, so thank you all, and we will
Thank
get to you as soon as that vote is taken, get rolling. And I would anticipate, as long as nothing terrible happens, or someone points out something egregious, that we would adopt the Anthem plan that you proposed. We just would like to consider it briefly. And I want to invite any, representatives of our employee bargaining units to reach out in case there's something you've heard or seen or your members have that you would like us to address publicly or privately before we set your insurance rate in stone. Okay, you are off the, you're more than welcome to stay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I might have to.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have the superintendent's report, is that you this evening?
That's me this evening. Hi, everyone. Okay, on behalf of Michael, I am going to just share a couple little snippets that he asked me to pass along. Summer school wrapped up on August 2nd. We had roughly 400 students participate, and we will have a comprehensive presentation for the board in September. On August 8th, Michael attended a ribbon cutting at the new 7-Eleven over by Ford School. That's all over social media. It was a very exciting morning. He went sort of as proxy for Michael Klein, who was on vacation that week. So the 7-Eleven is a new franchise over there. They are participating in something called Project A Game, which is a grant-funded outreach program. It's a nationally funded grant program designed to support local youth and schools. And the business owners here in town are excited to partner with Torrington Public Schools, and we're looking forward to the opportunity. We had our administrative retreat of the summer on August 15th. That was a lot of fun. It was an all-day event over at the Torrington Library. It's kind of our official kickoff of the year for the leadership team. New teacher orientation started today. I won't steal Kim's thunder if she's going to talk about that. The event runs through tomorrow. Something else that's really exciting that happened today, we had so the State Department of Education held their annual summer Leap Home Visiting District Coordinators meeting at the State Department offices. And we sent each of the LEAP districts, there are 15 in the state, sent members of their team. So we had Claudia Ocasio, Jenny Garcia, and Cindy Zwart go to represent our district. And we were recognized for our truly amazing home visiting program that's working. Our chronic absence rate continues to come down. We continue to get kudos from the state. I'm going to ask that those ladies come to the September meeting and tell you a little bit more about that. So that just happened. Just the only other thing to say, I guess, is that everybody has worked super hard this summer to get ready for the coming year. You know, everybody who works in the buildings, Dean's crew, you know, everybody at central office, everybody's worked so hard to make sure that the buildings are ready for students and staff. And we're so grateful to have such a hardworking group of folks on our team. And we're looking forward to Monday. It's going to be an exciting event. Dean's going to make sure that everybody's got a place to park. Right, Dean?
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's all I have. I don't know if anybody has any questions about what else we've been doing all summer.
Anything on the superintendent's report? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move right along to the human resources report.
Yes, so in June, I already had kind of provided you, because our meeting was so late in June, I was able to kind of provide you the end of the year recap, so I didn't want to provide you that same information again. So what I'm sharing with you is kind of our summer hiring update at a high level, so that you kind of have an understanding of what we've been doing in HR all summer. So I gave you the total number of teacher vacancies that we had. That includes internal movement that might happen, so might not necessarily be 43 resignations. It just sometimes there's people moving around. We had some, positions that we moved around, so things like that. So same with the paraeducators and then our other classified staff, and you can see we filled a large majority of those positions, so we only have a small number left. The paraeducator number has actually already gone down by 3 since Monday, because we've already hired 3 more. So we are feverishly working to fill those last few vacancies, but we're actually in really good shape. This is our total number of actual new hires to the district that you can see down below, so that you kind of know how many new people we have. And as Sue mentioned, we had new teacher orientation today, and we actually invited our new paras to join the first day and kind of restructured so that the things that we talked about today kind of applied to both of those groups, and it was lovely. And we had breakfast, and all of our administrators came, and we played icebreaker bingo to kind of get everybody to talk to each other, and it was lovely and wonderful, and just a great day. And we brought in speakers from payroll. Dean came to talk about facilities, and Laura and her team came and talked about special ed, and then the paras had a little time at the end with just the paras with Laura's team. So it was a great day. So we're looking forward to tomorrow. It'll just be the teachers tomorrow. And the TEA will be there, and we'll talk about teacher evaluation and Power School and all the stuff that really just applies to teachers. And hopefully we've set them all up. Oh, and Rachel's team did the technology, and they all got their tech, and everything went well, so kudos to her team as well. I'm sorry I forgot that. So, but it was great, because they've all got their devices, they've got their emails, they're ready to go, so really exciting. And then I just wanted to give you updates on kind of our overall turnover number, because obviously that's changed over the summer since I reported to you in June, because we have gotten resignations over the summer. So I am happy to answer any questions.
Question has nothing to do with what you've reported on, but the consent agenda has 2 resignations listed as MI. What is that?
Midgen, so they're district-wide staff?
District, okay, so it
Yes,
doesn't say
so, yeah.
DW. Usually they say DW, but this is MI stands for.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that,
thank you.
so district-wide, central office, yeah.
Any other questions, comments on the HR report? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have student services next, I think, special education report.
Okay, so I was not at the last meeting, so I just included our final year and, where we ended up in June. We did wrap up with a few last minute referrals so our numbers went up a little bit, as they always do at the end of the year. However, down at the bottom these are our changes over the year. Really haven't changed all that much, look pretty good. Obviously, our pre-K is up 31 kids, but other than that, our outplacement K through 12 was 0 change. Kids going to choice schools down by 4. Outplace 18 to 20, I have 21, I have to change this to 22, is down by 2. So, and our prevalence all year has really been the same, about 15%. So it went up a tiny bit at the end, 0.2%. So that's kind of where we are. We're right where we need to be as far as that goes. I also included on the next page, I did this last year too. This is just every year since I started. We began in July of 19, and then these are our wrap-up numbers every year. So, you could see over on the right, we've done pretty well with our numbers. The only thing being in green is the total number of students in district went from 646 in 2019 to 647, so we're up 1 kid. However, the population has gone up quite a bit, and if you look at special ed numbers across the state, they've zoomed up. So I'm pretty happy with us staying status quo. And down at the bottom, we just included, since over the 5 years, we exited 199 kids in special ed. So those are kids that no longer need special ed, which is a pretty good feeling. And we've newly identified 236. Sorry, that got cut off. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you was just our summer programming. So this is just specifically the special ed program, not the total summer school program. For our extended school year, those are the kids that meet very specific criteria. We had about 70 kids that met it, and they received their 4 weeks of instruction. It was happening at Vogel. It went really well. They got their related services as well, and that was a great thing. What we added this year, which was really fun, and something I've wanted to do since I've been here, was we started what we called Torrington Integration Camp. And we were able to have 23 students come. Half of them had disabilities, the other half were non-disabled kids. They did all kinds of fun activities. We had special ed teachers, social workers, paras there to support them. We brought the gym teacher in to do field day with them one day. So there's some pictures there at the bottom. Over on the left, they created this really cute, big tile T for us to put at the entrance to our student services office to thank us for doing camp for them. So that was really a good time. You can see some of the feedback from both the kids and the teachers. Definitely going to be a go next year. Might bring it down as low as 2nd grade. We'll see. We definitely are not going to do high school, but It really was very successful with that middle grade kind of group. And then the last thing that we did for summer programming was at the middle school, we worked with 11 of our students that were not passing one of their core classes, either the ELA or the math, but they were close. So, you know, it was like 58 and above kinda, and we had them come in and work with 2 of our special ed teachers. And of the 11, you can see in the box on the right, we were able to have 6 of them complete enough of their assignments and do well enough to be able to pass their courses. So I was happy with that. We had 3 that passed their failing ELA, 2 that passed their math, and those were all 8th graders. And then 1 6th grader that was able to pass their math. The remaining 4 students chose not to participate. So even though we really, I mean, I don't know how else we could have reached out, you know, and they did not, you know, meet with the teachers, go on Google, anything. So they did not pass those classes, but that was 4 out of the 11, and actually, I believe it was 3 out of the 11 because one of the students withdrew from TPS and is going to a magnet. So that was it, but it was a good summer. I think we did a lot of good things for kids.
So, just to be clear, of the students who did participate in the tutoring, every single one of them was able to bring their grade up and pass their.
Not every single one of them. There were 11
Oh, sorry.
11, and 6 of the 11 did what they needed to do. So the other 5, one of them moved out, the other 4 didn't buy into it. They were the same kids that the reason why they were failing was because they really didn't do much of their assignments during the school year. But we thought, well, let's give them one more shot, reach out one-on-one with a special ed teacher and really give them the opportunity and see if they're willing to take advantage of it.
Any,
With pre-K up plus 31, is that something that you think will continue?
Oh, yeah.
Because?
Yeah, so every year we seem to go about up 30 or so in the year.
Okay.
Because as they turn 3, we end up having to qualify and bring them in. So at the beginning of the year, they're not there. As the year goes on, our number increases.
So it's typical?
Yes.
Anybody else? Thank you, and I just, you know, the number of students you've exited from special ed is tremendous. So we are lucky to have you and your team doing such good work on behalf of our students. Sorry, I have to go back to the agenda, give me 1 second. Okay, next up, we have the committee reports, School Improvement Committee.
School Improvement Committee has not met over the summer. We will be meeting next month, and we will be taking a close look, I hope, at the state test results, as well as talking about summer school results and how that went, just a general report and discussion. That's what's going on.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Kisco? Okay, Policy Committee.
Same thing, hasn't met yet. I think we had on the agenda coming up Title IX and what was the other, there was one other item. Was there one?
Just Title
Just Title,
IX.
it was gonna be a long one.
Because it was a big one.
Yeah. And then after that, dress code probably.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Okay, any questions for the Policy Committee? None. Budget, I know.
It was a very short meeting. We're not finished yet with any numbers, so it's a work in progress.
Great. We look forward to those numbers. Any questions, Budget Committee? Okay. Facilities and Technology, I know you had a meeting.
Oh, yes, it's me. We did have a meeting. From the technology perspective, Rachel's doing a great job on the new website. Hope everybody has some comments, good or bad, please let Rachel know. That's as far as our tech update goes. Just so people know that our wonderful City Council and Board of Finance have given Rachel $0 this year to make any improvements. So duly noted, so find those advocates in the basement and figure stuff out from that perspective. Her device protection plan, we did talk about that and nauseam. And I think we came out with a final draft that you sent out, Rachel?
I will be.
Yeah, she'll be sending it out. So that's all good. Moving on to facilities, I think Dean's gonna take the floor a little bit to explain the retro commissioning presentation that we got from Siemens. It's something that we really need to do. And also Board of Finance and City Council gave Dean $0 this year to make any
job,
building
Dean, good
improvements,
job.
so, bring in the candles if the lights go out and so forth, because we can't fix anything.
And fans.
And fans, the ACs, you know, I don't know how long they're gonna last, so bring in your fans. And that's really all I have, so Dean, are we gonna talk about the retro commissioning, give people an overview, because I believe we have an action item for the retro commissioning
So that'll be discussed.
project.
Yeah,
So
that'll
we'll
be
discuss it at
discussion.
that point?
Yeah, it's new information and action, so we would hear from Dean and then, ask any questions before we consider it.
Okay, so Dean will be giving us an update on that, that's retro commissioning number 6.
Okay.
That's all I got, anybody have any questions, you wanna ask anybody?
Okay.
None. Yeah.
With zero tech and zero capital, if the Luddites among us could tune into our meetings or read the news online, I'm certain they would celebrate. Me, not so much. Building committee, Gary, you're usually our guy on that, you wanna tell us?
Yeah, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did listen in. We're on schedule, there's still some whittling away at that contingency, got $1.2 million something left. Not as healthy as I would like to see, but I see we're gonna make it, so we'll see. I don't know if you brought the turf issue up, the turf is back. But not a lot to discuss about it, other than, I think Michelle is talking about getting the full 6 million, the city not putting anything in. But it will be up to the mayor as to whether or not she can craft an agreement we can agree to.
Meaning there'd be no money spent
No
on the building
contribution on our
committee,
part.
nothing, okay.
What Mario is saying, I don't think he said it in the meeting, was the mayor has said she's gonna go out to referendum. I don't know when that will be, I don't think anybody knows, but it's still up in the air, but Michelle Cook's pushing hard to get whatever we need to get it done, so if that's possible, it'll be wonderful.
Well, on the subject of a referendum, knowing the city's general counsel, as I do, let's hope they got a bond counselor. Anybody have any questions for Gary?
Can I make one statement, since this is public? The turf is a great idea, but I don't really see the point of getting turf unless we have lights back there. Because
I won't-
daylight is a problem, and we can have all this great turf, but
I
what's the point
I
if it's
don't
dark at
disagree
4
with you at
o'clock?
all, I brought that up with Mario offline. If we got all the money we needed, we don't have to build the whole, it doesn't mean that if it happens, and you know me, I was not fully in favor of this unless the city's gonna replace it. Otherwise, we can't do it, but if it's a $6 million pot, doesn't mean we have to do all turf, we could do, I suggested this on a phone call to Mario, because he loves the idea of all turf, but I said, without lights, what's the sense, because if we wanna get, the city wants, and we wanna get as much as we can out of those fields, we need lights, in my opinion,
So,
that's all, but
so that is really a. Oh, do you have a question, or?
Well, in reference to the lights, the infrastructure is there for the lights,
correct.
but it's just not in the budget to put the lights in.
Infrastructure's under the school project.
Correct.
Yes,
Yes, we're talking outside the school project.
right,
Yeah.
right, but the,
So we don't have, it doesn't have to be spent on turf only.
That's what
Is it athletic field improvements?
he thinks that's the case.
Okay.
But again, you know more about the state than I do. Maybe I know more about DOT, but I don't know about the other issues.
It would depend on how, so the money that exists for turf fields for us here in Torrington was written into the statute. It wasn't done on the bond commission's agenda, et cetera. So it would entirely depend on what the budget implementer bill actually said. So if it said specifically only, the turf and the groundwork, et cetera, then that's all it could be. If it says something along athletics or ancillary stuff, then it would be that. So we would have to, the building committee would have to find out, ask Michelle, ask their lawyer, something like that. It'll depend entirely on what the statute language is. I can't say any more than that, I guess. Anybody else have anything on the building committee side? Okay. So that's all our committee reports. Unless anybody objects, I would hear 6E, which is the Board of Ed minutes, the regular meeting minutes from June 26th and the special meeting minutes July 1st and August 7th. That's 2 agenda items. I would hear them as one motion, provided there is unanimous consent to do so. Mr. Disco.
I move we accept both at the same time.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so those minutes are
Bill?
approved, yeah. Same deal, I would hear one motion with unanimous consent for the subcommittee meeting minutes for the budget committee's June 26th meeting and the facilities and technology committee's June 26th meeting as one motion.
So,
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
no,
opposed?
Bill?
Yes. Okay, I would hear motion to receive the consent agenda of appointments, retirements, and resignations.
So
Is there a second? I'm looking
I'm
for it.
sorry.
I know, there it is. It's page 26 of the packet. Have we done with it?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, seconded by Mr. Berger. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. So that's accepted unanimously. All right, new information and action. So I have a possible executive session regarding the collective bargaining agreement between ASME Local 1579 of Council 4 and the Torrington Board of Education. That in that motion, we would be inviting in at a minimum, I assume Ms. Schulte.
I don't need to be
Okay.
in there.
So, but Scott, Laura, and Dean and I were.
Okay, is there such a motion to enter into executive session to discuss that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, made by Mr. Berger, seconded by Mr. Polito. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
7:04,
Yeah.
so was meeting here.
It's made by Glenn, seconded by Gary, I think,
I did, yeah.
there were no opposed, so we are in executive session, if it would convenience, okay. So, we are back in open session at, our time it is, 7:32, making good time. Number 2 here, possible action regarding the collective bargaining agreement between ASME Local 1579 of Council 4 and the Torrington Board of Education. I will hear a motion, if there is one, to ratify the tentative agreement.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Knight, seconded by Mr. Kisco. Just for my item of discussion, I just want to thank everybody for a pretty smooth negotiating process. This is a big bargaining unit with lots of people who do very different jobs in it. And it's a big contract. So thank you, Kim, Dean, Laura, Scott, for sitting through it, and to the members of the committee, which is myself, Mr. Kisco, and Ms. Conway. I don't want to thank myself, so I'll just thank the other two. I didn't really do much.
I will think.
Thank you. And with that, is there any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the collective bargaining agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so I will sign that at the end of this meeting. And now that it's been adopted by the board, I can say that, and it is about to become a public document, that I'm really proud that we were able to get very substantial wage increases for some of our district's lowest paid employees who work tirelessly in student services, in the nurse's office, who keep our buildings in good shape, who answer our parents' phone calls, et cetera, and who make our students breakfast and lunch. My mom was a cafeteria worker in Torrington Public Schools for some time in the early 2000s when I was in middle school, when they made about $10 an hour, and it was a difficult job. There were injuries not infrequently, and the pay, they were our district's lowest paid employees then, just as they are now. So I'm really proud that we're able to get them much more substantial wage increases even than we have in past collective bargaining agreements. Okay, I think there's supposed to be a number next to board goals 24, 25, so we're gonna call it number 3. It's on the agenda, it just doesn't have a number. So who's taking up, put that on, who wants to talk about it? I can put it on. Did Sue put that on?
Yes.
Okay, so with it in mind that Mrs. Prentice wanted to lead the discussion on the board goals, I think we ought to just move past this. There's no motion needed. We just, it's possible.
Number, it's an orphan and.
Right. And I want to afford her the opportunity to lead the discussion on the agenda item that she wants to put on the agenda. So we have the board's self-evaluation, which I think was tied in with that.
Also her babies.
Yeah, there's been some discussion, I know, in the Board of Education Chairs Group across the state about the nature report, self-evaluations, how different folks do them. So I think, Sue, we talked briefly about this, would like to initiate some sort of process. So we'll place it on the next agenda where she again can lead that discussion and see where it takes us. Sick policy meeting schedule. This one was brought up by Sue, but I'm familiar with what she was considering, which has to do with the frequency of those committee meetings and the subject matter presented to them versus the full board. I believe she may have reached out via email to the chairs of those committees, I think, about essentially making those policy committee a standing committee, but that would meet more on an ad hoc basis, only as necessary to consider policy proposals, either from the administration, our general counsel, or board members, and to move some of the meatier presentations made to the school improvement committee to full board meetings, which would add some more time to our docket, but would make them more available at meetings that people are perhaps more inclined to tune into. So the way this process would have to work is we can discuss it here. If there is a proposal for a bylaw change, it would have to be read at the next Board of Education meeting and then at the meeting following that as second reading before it can be voted on. So this is a preliminary discussion. There is no bylaw language change presently being read. But Sue wanted to place this on the agenda. I don't think it's an unworthy idea, particularly for the policy committee. We don't need to create or invent things for policy to talk about, so if there's nothing before them, then we don't necessarily need to have a standing schedule. So I will leave it at that for my part and open this to discussion for the group, if there is some.
I agree on policy.
Okay, well, that's good, that one's settled. So I'll talk to Sue about drafting a proposed bylaw change to be read, at least in that regard. Does anyone have anything about school improvement? I'm not so sure about moving the presentations myself, just because part of the idea of having them go to the committee is that they can be longer and more in-depth without dragging our regular monthly meeting to 9 p.m. So the content is worthwhile in whichever meeting it's heard in. But sometimes our meetings, even without those big presentations, can be quite long. So I'm not so sure myself about it.
As former policy chair, there's always policies to be looked into, to be tweaked, to be, because the state made different changes or whatever, and to go through any that we might need or any that comes up. So to me, there's always a need for policy. But I agree, and it would be more lively discussion.
Make sure there's something to talk about.
Right, and if there isn't, then you don't have a meeting.
I think that was her point. She did talk to me about it and asked me some questions, and then I went to Kim because I've been here so long. This is how this is my only frame of reference, but from what I've gathered over the past couple of weeks and learning about this is that in many districts, subcommittees, not just school improvement and policy, but subcommittees in general exist when there's work to be done, and then that work goes to the full board. So if we're talking about school improvement, for example, like the distinguished alum is an actionable thing. The new course proposals, textbook adoptions, those things that go to the full board. And then her question again was, the informative, informational things, are those things not, of interest to the full board? And that's as much as I know about her wanting to bring it forward.
The advantage to subcommittee meetings can be that the people who are interested in whatever the topic of that subcommittee is, get a chance to express themselves and participate in it to a degree that other people who maybe don't care, don't have to. If it's in a full board, we're all stuck listening to everything, which might be what we want. If it is, great, but might not be.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think when Sue and I started kind of engaging in this because of, the information, I think what we found was more often than not, because the presentations were so informative and so of interest to the full board, that more often than not, the people that were doing those presentations ended up doing them again at the full board. So I can think of, in Laura's case, the people that came and did, like Paulina, like, they were asked to come back to the full board and do the whole presentation again. So it just felt like the board was looking for it because it was such great information. So I think those are the things that we talked about as we talked about this.
Right, and then there was another conversation again with Sue that, instead of necessarily on an ad hoc basis, is it done maybe not every month, but quarterly or something like that?
Every other, she did,
Yeah, just to cut down on that sort of thing, yeah.
You could have a night, the first Wednesday of every month could be alternating sick and policy, and then budget would have to meet because we could adopt that in the whole board very easily.
Correct, which, I said to Ed, I'm not sure why this says just sick and policy. I think it came up this way because of the August cancellations, honestly, but it really is about subcommittees overall. And we were asked to look at, making the agenda more efficient and that kind of thing. So this came up in that spirit, honestly. It's not at all that we don't want to have meetings. It's how to do it better and make them more meaningful.
I would say budget and especially facilities and technology, there's a lot of the finer details of facilities that don't necessarily make it to the full board because it's all, well, not all, often quite technical or something like that. So I think John's inclination might be right that those committees may need to meet every month, even if we say that they don't necessarily have to. They may find themselves meeting every month. But
a greater willingness to cancel a meeting is not a bad idea,
Right.
Well, that's true too. That's another way to look at it. If there's nothing that comes up, then the meeting doesn't happen, but okay.
But it would make it easier for everybody's schedule if we didn't have to publish a calendar, have our team expecting to show up and then tell them a week beforehand. Now, you go out for dinner on Wednesday night. Good luck making plans,
Right, and then we were thinking honestly too, in talking with Sue, was thinking about you folks, right? You guys are volunteers and you're devoting a lot of time, and when you come out, if we could do it fewer times, but make those meetings very pointed and very productive, not just to meet because it's on the calendar.
So, unless there's additional discussion, I think what I'll do, because we couldn't take action on this anyway because it would require a bylaw change, is I'll reach out to Sue. I would encourage everybody to send your feedback around in some sort of discussion medium. And I'll work with her to put a draft of a proposed bylaw change together. And we can go from there. So we'll give it a reading and take amendments at the next month's meeting to further the discussion. So no matter what, there wouldn't be action next month anyway. It takes 2 months to change the bylaws, but we'll get the process started on putting something to paper that we can bring to all of you. Yeah.
Can we also add facilities to this?
Yeah, so we'll make it a more general committee schedule and responsibilities discussion. Not that we're gonna
Zero
do.
capital, there's really not gonna be much to talk about.
Would that happen in the policy committee? Bylaw change?
It could, it doesn't have to, we've done it both ways, we've done bylaws through policy, we've done bylaws in meetings.
Make it simple.
Right, in any case, it would have to be read twice in a Board of Ed meeting. So to Gary's point, if we send it to policy, it's still gonna have to come up twice for us.
Gotcha.
And facilities is gonna have to talk about bake sales and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
You know, it's tech
Brownies.
update and websites.
Tom Wash.
You know, it's-
Yeah,
I
you
think
missed your
you're-
calling.
I know,
You really did. This guy should open a bakery.
too
Yeah.
much work getting up that early. I do have district test score reporting updates that.
That was part of this conversation, because it was where's the best place to do that, so there's.
So we'll fold that into the previous
Yeah.
discussion about what committees hear what. Is it better to hear test scores and reporting at the full board or at committee meeting? Please be sure to include that in your feedback that you share if you have any.
Except for this year, because we would have heard those in the spring, but didn't. We're already behind on that. The district scores, couldn't we have heard those in June? We always do it in the fall, but
No, we did that.
no, last year's scores, the ones that we got last spring, we have not heard before the whole board.
So
We were a year behind. We didn't hear about the year before scores until the end of last year.
okay, I have to go back.
Yeah, go back and
What
check,
we
because
have.
what you'll find is that we have not yet had a presentation on the results that we got in the spring.
I think you've shared sort of some general overviews of this is
We
how I
did hear-
think it went,
right.
but I think John's right that we haven't seen them.
Okay.
And I know especially co-chair Corey was looking for disaggregated scoring.
Yeah, we had a discussion
I
about,
remember talking about that.
right, things like demographics.
Are you talking about like the state
SBAC.
assessments?
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, I see, from the previous, you're talking
We're
about.
talking about the SBAC results we got in May or whenever they come out.
So they come out at the end of August. So the S
Okay,
plus
but they're in,
scores, we don't even have them now that are for public. We
okay,
can't
then
share
those are the ones that, how long are they embargoed?
until the end. I haven't gotten the letter yet saying we
Oh,
can release
okay.
them.
Okay.
So Michael Wilson, when he walked into the room as this conversation was happening, in both his previous districts, the committee, which would be akin to school improvement, 4 times a year, and you always knew the first fall meeting was gonna be those scores, and then you were gonna get the update of the internal scores, and then in the spring, you were gonna get whatever was available at that time.
That makes some sense. We would be talking about that in the bylaws revision presumably, but.
Yes.
Right, but in
Okay,
the
so
meantime,
maybe
I would-
anyway, we'll worry about that
Yeah.
later. We don't have to.
In the meantime, I would not be asking committee chairs to change their current schedules, agendas, and things that you have that you wanna be working on, because we're talking about something that's gonna happen several months from now. So if you're anticipating doing something in the next couple of months worth of your committee meetings, please continue to do so, because we don't even have anything to ask people to vote on. So I don't wanna disrupt anyone's work until we're ready to replace it. Okay, the last thing I've got, did we add something? We added an
Yes.
item 7.
We added 7.
Designs.
Oh,
So
we added
the second to
design.
last thing, I've got is the retro commissioning project at TMS. If you wanna take that away. Oh,
Sure, so we had Eversource come in along with Siemens to give us a presentation last Wednesday at the facilities meeting that we had, to go over this retro commission package that they proposed to us. I'm sure you've seen all of the packages that went with it. It details changing a lot of the mechanical equipment to more up-to-date frequency drives, variable speed, different ways to save a tremendous amount of energy. So the goal here is to spend less money on electricity. And having seen our electrical bills, since I have this job, we spend a lot of money on electricity. So these improvements will help with that. The board, the facility board, the guy gave us a great presentation. We did leave last Wednesday's meeting with a couple questions. As of 3:12 today, he gave me some of the answers of these questions, so I just want to throw that out to you. I'm sorry it was so late, that's when I got it. But one of the questions that we had for him was the warranty of the products he's gonna put in. You know, just like when you buy something at the store, some are 30-day warranty, 60-day warranty, a year warranty, it all depends on the product that you buy. They found that Siemens has decided to make this go a little smoother, that they have increased their 12-month warranty, and they're gonna give us a 30-month warranty for all Siemens installed equipment. So this will cover us for the entire time that we're paying this off. So if it's a 2.5 year, whatever this turns into, 30 months, the equipment we put in will be under their warranty. Normally it would have been a year, so he came back with that to say he was gonna give us a 30-month year warranty on those equipment. And then whatever the pieces of equipment, whatever their warranty, doesn't belong to Siemens that they buy, it's whatever standard industry is on it. The other question that they had, we had for them was, we were worried about communication with our Cat 5 line and our Cat 6 lines, and they said that they would handle that with our IT department at no cost to us. So a few things in there that turned out better than last Wednesday that we got for tonight. So Glenn, we all, the facility board approved it the other night, right? So we're looking.
Yeah, we moved that to the full board for their review and,
Okay.
it should be an action item to go ahead and vote on and approve this so that they can move forward. Siemens is under a timeline. They do have a very tight schedule to get this going.
And this will be financed through Eversource, so besides an initial cost of some of it, but they'll finance it through this time period.
So we finance it, pay our bills, and then at the end of the financing, any savings that still exist then become ours functionally.
Yeah, and the payback is between, 3 and 12 years, depending on what the items are, but there's a general.
So I assume they don't per se guarantee savings, but sometimes these things are structured such that, whatever you save is the payment, up to a certain amount or something like that. Basically, what I'm asking is, there's no situation where the amount we're paying goes up, right? The payment is always baked into whatever the savings they achieve.
Baked in is a good word to put it, yep.
Okay.
So zero finance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, to Scott's point, the thing is it's 0% financing right now through Eversource. We have zero capital. Some of the stuff on here needs to be done. I mean, it's gotta get done.
And to that point, it's also gonna help us when it comes to our indoor air quality audit, when it comes to that building, because this stuff is something that would be in that audit that we were deficient of, so now we will no longer be deficient in those areas. We'll be deficient in other areas, but it'll be one less stuff we'll have to ask
And
capital.
it's compatible, right?
And it's all compatible with newer equipment and change outs,
When would the work be before?
as soon as we say yes.
Okay, I was able to give it no more than a cursory review, I'm ashamed to admit. But it won't be like seriously disruptive to.
No, they'll work, they do this all the time, it's Eversource and Siemens, they work inside of buildings and do these changes, consistently. There'll be nothing down. There may be some adjustments we have to make, they'll have to put something on manual drive other than control drive, but there should be no impact. 99.9% of this stuff is in mechanical rooms. There may be some sensors or other things they'll have to get in the classroom for, but they assure they'll work around and make sure it doesn't impact the students.
Even said if there's holidays
Yep.
baked around the time they'll do it, they'll work on holiday when there's no students in the building, so.
Okay. So my last question is just what's the nature of the vote that you're asking us to take? Are you asking us to authorize you to enter into an agreement and initiate this process? Do we need to put a dollar amount in the motion? What are we looking for from the board?
Glenn, help me on this, I think
Just
we're
to
just
go
looking
forward.
to initiate the going forward on this, because there really is not a dollar
Execute
amount.
this contract,
Alright, so-
the scope of work that Siemens is out.
Alright, and so it's specifically with Siemens, not with Eversource. Eversource is just the financier.
Yes.
Okay, so are there any additional questions? Okay, hearing none, I will
Yes.
hear a motion then to authorize, I'm just gonna say the district central office team, to enter into an agreement with Siemens for a retro commissioning project at Torrington Middle School in the amount as quoted of $297,392.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Ugalito, seconded by Mr. Berger. Any discussion? Motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Alright,
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion carries unanimously. And now we have the discussion, possible action, I suppose, on this sign at the high school, middle school, which I've been informed a little bit about some controversy related to the ordering of high school versus middle school, but I'm really not familiar beyond that, so somebody else take it away.
And if it's more than one
It's
school.
technically not it, right?
Is it one school
Um,
or is it
there's
two?
going to be 3 signs, correct?
Yeah.
And right now, it's middle, hold on. I have sign paper. That's really, right now it's middle high.
Well, I think, so there's a sign on the building that says, on the middle school that says Torrington Middle School. There's a sign on the high school that says Torrington High School. But the discussion is about the sign on the property, correct? Is it Torrington Middle and High School, Torrington Middle and High Schools, or Torrington High and Middle, right? Because it's the order, and it's also, is it a plural or singular? Am I right about this?
Right.
Okay.
So on all the paperwork that I have come across, it was always Torrington Middle High Central Office. And Ed thought that on all the paperwork that they sent to the state, it was High Middle Central Office.
Is that important? Like, so is that important?
What's important is that we make a decision so SLAM can make the sign.
So it doesn't have to align with what's gone to the state on their paperwork?
These are signs that are gonna tell people what buildings they're
So
looking
has
at.
the building committee asked us to make this decision?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, because
it's
they don't
on our
wanna put a
property.
name on it that we don't
Right.
I understand.
agree to.
So right now they want, it'll be Torrington Middle and High School or schools.
I'm fine with it if it says schools, I don't
And
wanna.
central
Don't we have an English
administration
teacher in this room or anything, or no?
Yeah, I don't wanna waste a ton of time on this, I'm fine if it says Torrington High and Middle Schools, we consider it 2 schools, it's being constructed as 2 schools, it will have 2 principals.
And that was my take on it also.
Okay, does anybody else have any takes here? Okay,
Well,
hearing.
Susan made reference to, and you guys helped me out, building committee, that whatever we put on our signs kinda's gotta match whatever the building committee chair and vice chair submit to the state of Connecticut for all this.
Well, that's what I just asked, but
I don't know.
if that's not what, isn't that what you just said, Ellen? That Ed was concerned that it,
No,
The building
Ed was
committee should pay
saying
a
that
lawyer
on the
to fix this.
paperwork to the state, it said middle and then high. No, it said high then middle. But on all of our paperwork and anything that we've sent to the public that I found so far was middle and then high.
If the state thinks that this matters, they will yell at us over it and we can change it.
I think we have to just decide and then they can make it.
Yeah, and if the
they can
building
make
committee is
change.
very concerned about it, I'm sure they can find money in their $1.2 million remaining contingency to pay a lawyer for an hour to answer the question. I think
So no, they
they're,
brought it to us and we decided.
and we're gonna make
Let's
a
just vote.
decision, and if the state changes their mind, the state will do what it wants.
Right.
So, I would hear a motion, I think this, we're all leaning to have it, the sign say Torrington Middle and High Schools.
So moved.
And central
And central,
administration
and
offices.
central administration offices, fine. Is there a motion?
So moved.
second,
Okay, made by Mr. Ippolito, seconded by Mr. Knight. Any discussion on the motion before us? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. Items for the upcoming agenda, so we are gonna put board self-evaluation and board goals. Sue will lead that discussion. We'll bring forward some proposal of some kind related to a bylaw adjustment for the committee meeting schedules and responsibilities. We will probably have 1 or 2 things coming from facilities, because projects that were already in the work for money that is from last year's capital. You'll have the final year-end budget numbers by then, hopefully, from the past fiscal. Not for the next full board meeting, but for a special meeting within the next few days. We will reconvene even if only remotely, to finalize our insurance discussion. That's all I got for future meetings. Anyone else have anything?
That's enough.
So, okay, comments for the good of the order? We'll just go around. Glenn?
Start with me. I don't know, some of you may think this is good comments or bad comments, I don't know, but I'm a little upset with some things that came across this evening. I don't know, if a lot of you don't know the amount of time that our co-chairs and Mr. Wilson and administrative staff put into getting this employee insurance done. I'm a little upset about an email that I had received during this meeting. The Prentice had to excuse herself, but we work as a team, let's not be children, nobody had to call grandma and rat somebody out and try and get people in trouble. Okay, we're all adults here, you got a problem, both these guys are approachable. I think the nonsense needs to stop, it's too early in the year to start this. Let's be adults and move on. That's all I have to say.
Did someone quote rat her out?
Well, we can discuss it offline, I'm not gonna talk about that at a public
Okay.
meeting, but
Well,
I just wanna
you
put
just
it out
said they
there.
did.
Thank you, Mr. Berger. Ellen?
Nothing.
Two things. School year is starting fairly soon. Congratulations and good luck to everybody who's going to be involved in that. And on the 8th of this month, I went to the Belonging Festival. Was that the name, Joanne? At Cove Park. Rain pushed it all inside, so it was kind of tight in there, but it was a festival. It was a fiesta. So, and congratulations and thank you to the people from the Torrington Public Schools staff who were there.
I agree with Glenn in terms of how we have to work as a team, but I was gonna bring up the issue of thanking the administration and Sue and anybody else involved and for pulling off what the Board of Finance said we can never pull off. I don't think everybody realizes how much the city was against this. I think it's a great plan, whatever we decide. We do have savings, and hopefully we can possibly consider better benefits, depending on what the legalities are, but it was said over and over again, it can never happen and we can't save any money, so tremendous, outcome.
Thank you. Rachel? Anything?
Good meeting.
Marissa?
I'm excited for the first day of school.
I think that we all are. Dean?
Yep, me too.
Welcome back, good to see everybody.
Scott?
All set, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone for all you do. Thank you, Sloan, for all the great coverage you're gonna provide.
Just wanna wish everybody well as we head into a new school year. I know a lot of work goes in during the summer while we take a month off from you all, which might actually be preferable, so you don't have to deal with us and you can focus on your responsibilities. But really, thank you, and please thank your respective teams and bargaining unit members and everybody who works for us, for what will no doubt be a great school year. I also just wanna again thank Local 1579 for really just an excellent several excellent negotiating sessions. Everybody worked in good faith. We all had a good goal of getting a great contract for these folks who work so hard for us, and I'm really proud of that. Same with the insurance. I'm really excited about good things to come. As more information becomes available on the exact costs, et cetera, we'll make it available. And while it's not within my purview to direct you to do this, I hope that you all will please invite any of our team to send in feedback, questions, and concerns surrounding health insurance that I can share with the board as it aims to make a decision. I don't get health insurance from Torrington Public Schools, and you all do over here, so I really want that feedback to make sure that when we are making our decision, that we're making one that is not going to harm anyone who works for us or their families. This is really important to me. So whatever you've got, question or concern wise, throw it at me. Maybe a little vitriol. If you're really mad about this new dental maximum thing, it's all very important. And the last thing I would say in reference to some things Glenn and Gary were talking about, is I am told that I've received a nasty email from the city's corporation council. I've gotta be honest, I have not read it. I assume he's inviting me to the next circus he will be performing in, and I will get to it eventually. And with that, I'll go through the future meetings briefly. We have committee meetings scheduled for September 4th, 5:30 school improvement, 6 p.m. or immediately following the policy committee meeting. September 11th, 5:30 facilities and technology at 6 p.m. or immediately following the previous. We have budget committee, same night, September 11th. And then we have the regular Board of Education meeting currently scheduled for 5:30. We moving to 5:30? Oh,
Yes.
that,
Yeah,
that
we
sounds
did.
terrible. That was a bad choice on my part. 5:30 p.m. regular Board of Education meeting here at Torringford, Wednesday, September 25th. And now I will hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait a second.
Second.
Okay, made by Mr. Knight, second by Mr. Ivulito, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at